welcome to Knit 2 Cultivate 2. This is primarily a fiber arts podcast, but I get into all kinds of shenanigans with my kids as we homeschool. My name is Emily Wood and I live in Midland, Michigan with my husband Colin and our two kids, Elias who's in 5th grade and Stella who's in 1st grade. So I want to start off with some administrative stuff. First off, thank you for coming back. We are up to 23 subscribers, which has blown me away. Honestly, I expected a handful of people to listen, but I didn't expect 23 people to watch my awkward first episode and want more. So thank you for coming back, and let's get at it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is our quarterly giveaway, which is until the end of March. This is a sock giveaway. It is hashtag cleanse your palate, KAL, on Instagram, and it's just a palate cleanser sock. It can be a vanilla sock, it can be whatever you want. A sock has to have 3 inches of a cuff or more, and those are the requirements. So join that. I've decided though what I'm gonna do for the prizes. So you get a choice. You can either pick 100 grams of hand-dyed knitting fiber or knitting yarn. You can either choose 4 ounces of spinning fiber, or you can choose, I haven't decided yardage yet, so give me a minute to figure that out, or I can dye a unmercerized cotton weft for weaving. So what I'll do is whoever wins the quarterly giveaway, I will send them an email, ask which of the options they want. I will give what kind of fibers I have in my basement at the time. I will also send you a picture with my digital dye stock, which means you will get to pick the colors that I will dye your yarn out of whatever I have in stock at the time. I just placed a huge order, so I should have lots of stuff. I'm also in the process of doing Alana Wilcox's digital dye notebook. So I'll be able to send you a picture with all the colors and hex codes so you can see what they look like and you can kind of pick and choose. So I think that'll be fun. So that's what I'm planning on doing, at least for this giveaway. So you have until the end of March to get that done. I do have the first episode giveaway to give away, which I'll do at the end. I do want to apologize for the question severity. I think that the imposter syndrome thing was a little much for a first episode. I didn't think how serious answers could be, right? Mine was a podcast and I would have been a ballet dancer. So to me, they were it was more of a thought exercise. Yeah, anyway, so I apologize about that. I'll keep it a little more upbeat in the future. Yeah, and so those are my answers. It was a podcast and I would have been a ballet dancer, but I asked the question with the expectation that it would be fun, and I can see how that might not be fun. A fun exercise for everybody. All right, lastly, I'm gonna talk about Patreon. I did not expect to already have a Patreon, but as of right now, sorry, that was awkward, I adjusted. Our first virtual knit night will be Sunday, February 20th at 2 p.m. The first dye video will also be released at that time. I'm gonna put up here a picture of my inspiration picture. I'm also gonna put up here the pictures of the dyes I'll be using because I already calculated that when I was doing my order, so I can show you that. So this is a picture of what I will be using as inspiration for a 3-skein dye. If you are a Patreon, for $5 a month, you get access to our once a month virtual knit night for an hour. And you also get access to once a month dye pot videos where I tell you everything I'm doing with my dye pots and start from an inspiration picture into the pan, right? I will record the whole thing as I'm talking through the process and give you all the inside details. Then I will give away 2 of the 3 skeins that I dyed up as a giveaway just for patrons. So those are the goodies in that. First virtual knit night is the 20th at 2 p.m. Okay, so I think I'm done with administration. Let's get to the knitting. Okay, so I have 0 finished objects this week. I have gotten nothing off the needles. I will say I'm doing a better job at not being a monogamous knitter. I've been knitting multiple projects at a time. So I do feel like I've made a lot of progress, the same amount of progress as I have in the past. I just don't have as many things finished at one time. They're more endurance activities when you're spreading them out like that, right? So the first project I have is the Novice Cardigan Mohair Edition by Petite Knits, which was about $7.15 US. Last time I had just cast on the first sleeve and I was in struggle bus mode. But before I get to that, I'm gonna show you why I love these bags. These are just little tote bags. I love these as knitting bags because I just fold them down into a bucket. And then I can like pull out my project and I'm closer to my yarn and I've got this little bucket that I just set up and it kind of sits there more upright. So that's one of the reasons I love these bags. I think I mentioned that I use these a lot for project bags and I wanted to explain why. So when I left off last week, I had just cast on the first sleeve. It was struggle bus because I don't know, I lost kind of my mojo for it or my motivation for it, but I regained it and now I have 2 sleeves. So I have 2 sleeves knit. It is a straight sleeve. So you knit for 15 inches with no decreases, and then you decrease a lot of stitches to get this balloon shape before you do the ribbing. I did a tubular bind off. It looks, I'm not in love with how I talked about this last time, but I'm not in love with how the tubular bind off looks in the mohair. I am hoping it kind of washes out a little, although I do think that maybe I did the cuffs of the sleeves better than the cuffs at the bottom because it does look better than the bottom of the sweater. Regardless, I found the coolest buttons. I feel like I did not write down where I got these buttons. Okay, so I forgot to write down where I got these. I think it was Red Poppy Crafts on Etsy, but I'm going to put a picture up here and I had included the name. So I found these amazing buttons that have this rust color of the sweater in them, but are little prints, and they just happen to be 15 millimeters, which is what I needed. So I bought them on Etsy. They were under $5 for whatever I got, and I got the most you could get in a pack. There was, I think, like an 8 and 12 option, and I think I got the 12. Under $5 for these buttons. They're perfect. I cannot handle how much I love them. So I think picking the buttons really helped me pick this project back up to get it to the point where I can put the buttons on. So I am done with the sleeves and all I have to do is a button band on the front of the cardigan. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm really close. Okay, so my next project on my needles I was working on last time is Pink Sky at Night by Margaret Stoffager, and it was $4.50 US. I am at very close to the end on this. Very close to the end. Last time I recorded, this was really the project that was giving me the most joy, and I wasn't working on my novice cardigan. By the time I recorded this, it's kind of flipped, right? This is the one that I'm not really touching, and I've been working on the novice cardigan. This is why I have multiple projects though. This is an ADHD thing. This is how I keep motivated and interested in projects. Sometimes that means putting them down for a while and giving them a time out and then coming back to them. So yeah, anyway, so this is the Pink Sky at Night. It is a wavy brioche pattern with some straight 2-color brioche in the middle. It is a asymmetric shawl. As you can see, it's increasing only on one side, and it's very bright. Very bright colors. The idea behind this, I talked about it last time, being offensive to the eyeballs. And I'm sorry, I keep pulling at this dress. I accidentally dried it, and now it's all, I have broad shoulders, and it's all tight in here. All right, so this is very, very bright. The idea behind this though is to wear it like with an all black outfit and have this be the only pop of color in the entire outfit. So I do think it's gonna be exactly what I wanted, but it's a little offensive when you look at it. It's very bright. But I'm almost done. So I have 12 more rows And then I'm binding off. So I really need to get some swatching done for another project since I'm going to be done with both of these probably by the next episode. So yeah, chugging along. But that's about it for this one. The last project I have on my needles is my Cleanse Your Palate cast on. This is the Winter Rose Sock by Helen Stewart, and it's about $6.37 US. It is a lace pattern. I'm just trying to stretch it out for you. They really need to be blocked. I'll get sock blockers when I show you next, because this one will probably be done next time. I have about 3 pattern repeats before I get to the heel flap and gusset. I think it's a heel flap. But yeah, this is a great pattern. It's a 5-row repeat, and the first 2 rows you do something, and the second and the last 3 rows are just straight. And so it's enough of a pattern that I can memorize it, but that there's a little bit of interest, right? So it doesn't look like it would be a vanilla pattern, but for me, it is a very vanilla pattern. This is currently my to-go knitting. So it's so easy, or it's so minor of a pattern that I can take it with me and not think about it, right? I only have 1 row that I have to concentrate on. And it's pretty easy. You can count your rows. So it's been one of those that I don't really need to I will reference my chart to mark where I am after all 5-row repeats, and then I'll go back to it. So yeah, this is what I've been doing. I love it. And it is doing exactly what I wanted. It is kind of just a simple knit. I love this color. I can't. And this was Ella Ray Virgin Merino wool. I'll put the link to it because I talked about it last time when I purchased it. But yeah, so this is my submission for our knit along. Okay, so I have not touched my Brioche Hearts spinning project that's on my Heavenly Hand Spinning. I think I said I have an arrow. I'll look on the last episode. I really need to write this down somewhere. In Sharpie, in big letters on the side of it, apparently. No, would never do that. But I haven't touched it because I got a new spinning wheel. When we were in Columbus, I had a Kromsky Fantasia that I loved. And we lived in, I am not even remotely kidding, 750 square feet for like almost a decade. So a spinning wheel, when you own a loom, is not while the loom was bigger, the spinning wheel is what got relegated to leave. But I sold it back then, and with the intention of replacing it, and I finally did. I bought a Shocked Matchless, and this is the first time I've spun in double drive, and I love it so much. I spun a whole bobbin and did not adjust it at all. It was insane. I came from Scotch tension, and now this wheel does do Scotch and Irish tension, but I haven't tried that yet. I will. I want to see what the wheel can do, right? But this wheel came heavily recommended, and even my husband was like, it's a pretty machine. And I was like, just the workmanship of it compared to my last wheel is next level. It's amazing. But yeah, so I've been playing around with that, and Zeilinger wool in Frankenmuth, I went to recently and got these wool rounds. I showed them last time. I'll take a picture of one and add it in. And so I decided to spin up some of those to like get used to the wheel and practice. And so I have one bobbin spun up. It's not very even. I'm not really worried about that, but it's this natural, I wonder if you can see how much I can squish it. Yeah, they're really bouncy, fluffy singles. So I have almost another bobbin full. I'm assuming these are 4-ounce bobbins. I didn't look, but they look like 4-ounce bobbins. And this is not 4 ounces, but I have another one almost full, and then I can probably get a third one from the same bundle of wool. I have 2 of those. So I should be able to get 6 full bobbins from this wool that I bought, which will give me 3 skeins, because I'm going to do a 2-ply finished yarn. I did lazy sampling, and by that I mean I A, didn't wash or finish any of them, and B, just did like plyback tests. This was a learning process, or this was just a learning experience and getting used to the wheel, so I wasn't too worried about the technical qualities of the yarn. But I'm loving it. I cannot wait for warmer weather to take when people bring their wheels to the Friday night yarn gathering. I've been told that happens. I've only been once so far because we moved, and I am really excited for some spin-ins. So I didn't talk about any weaving last time, and honestly, I haven't done any weaving for a few years. I was really into it. We had a small space. The loom got packed away, and it hasn't gotten love yet in our new place. We've only been here for 6 months. I've barely gotten a dye studio set up, right? So I haven't quite gotten weaving stuff set up, but I did just order a bunch of fiber reactive dye from Dharma Trading Company that's shipped and on its way. And I also found a old warp that I had wound up. So I think I have 6 warp chains that I'm going to hand paint with that. So that is coming. I am just waiting for the dye, and then I will dye up the warp, and I think I'm just gonna put a project on there to get back at it. So I think it's definitely gonna be a twill. I'm gonna do a straight draw tie up. And just 2-2 twill, either a broken pebble twill, or just a straight twill, honestly. So just to get used to it and to play with some color. I have never dyed warps. I have always wanted to. I've never had the space to. So this is something new that I am finally able to kind of explore now that I have the space to execute these things. And I'm really, really excited about it. So that is coming up. I will update once I get the dyes. All right, so plotting and purchases. I just placed a large order from Knit Picks of bare yarn and fiber. I got a fingering weight and a worsted weight, I think. I'm gonna have to look. I know I got bare gloss roving, which I bought one time to do a sample spin of, and I loved it. It was so amazing to spin, and it created this wonderful yarn to weave with. It was probably closer to a lace weight than a fingering, or maybe a light fingering, 2-ply. It was amazing. Smooth yarn, worsted spun. It was a silk blend, and it's a very drape. It has a lot of drape, so it'll be great for, honestly, it'd be great for a weaving warp because it has so much strength from the silk. It had a high silk content. I'll look up and add up here so you know the things I didn't think to look up. But it would have been great. So I'm really hoping to dye up some of that and spin it into my very first weaving project using hand spun. So I have gotten to the point now where I can spin yarn for knitting projects, but I want to be able to spin yarn for my weaving projects as well. So that's kind of what I'm working towards. Yeah, I also got a bunch of new dye from Dharma Trading. I think I got a mix of their acid dyes and fiber reactive dyes. I know I mentioned this last time, but you can use fiber reactive dyes as an acid dye. So you just, instead of using soda ash to use it as a cold water dye, you would add an acid, so citric acid or vinegar, and then you can use them for wool. And a lot of companies have more fiber reactive dyes because I think they're used for more things. They're also really used for tie dye, right? Which of course, because it's cotton t-shirts typically. And you use it to dye, or I use it to primarily dye cotton warps and wefts. Yeah, so there are typically more colors available, in my opinion, in the fiber reactive category than the acid dyes on most sites, and that is true with Dharma. So I got a ton of them, and I'm excited. When I get my digital dye notebook, which I'll talk about right after this, set up, I'll have all the hex codes there, so you'll be able to see my whole stock. And yeah, I'll post that up there because I think it's kind of cool. So this brings me to one of my learning things, which is Alana Wilcox. She is an amazing spinner and dyer. I have a few of her, she has a few PDF books. I don't know if she would count them as a workshop, so I didn't know how to word that. But books and resources from her, and they're phenomenal. Well made, well produced. She has a series of videos on how she manages her dye stock, dye recipes, and projects for dye pods. I saw mention of this from Nicole Frost, who I know she uses some of the techniques. I don't know how much she uses. I think she uses a lot of it though, from what she showed on a video one time. She is a fantastic resource also on YouTube. Anyway, so I got that the other day. It was $50. It's a series of YouTube videos and a PDF. And so you get these Google Docs. It's all done in Google Docs, but it uses spreadsheet functions. So you can be like, hey, I'm dyeing 100 grams of this fiber for this recipe. How much dye do I need of each color? Amazing. Anyway, I'm really excited about that. I've already learned so much, and I haven't even made my own, but I'll share what I've got in my stock when I get there. Okay, so the next thing was I decided to do some more promoting with posters, taking them to more local shops. There were a few yarn shops that I had not visited. So one of those was the Dragonfly Quilt and Yarn Studio in Bay City, Michigan, and that is about 25 minutes from where I live. I live in Midland, Michigan. I said that at the beginning though, now that I'm saying that. Anyway, this was a great shop. I didn't know of it, but the owner was amazing. She was wonderful and chatty, which was what I needed right in that moment. I also am not a quilter, but I do like I do sew and make projects bags. So I'm definitely gonna use this for good fabric. I was eyeing some of the fabric. But I had a good conversation with her. She seems really cool. They offer local classes. Awesome place. And I, of course, did not leave without goodies to add to my stash. So the first thing I have is by Graphic Dye Works. And I wonder if it says, this is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So this is not far from me. We were just in Grand Rapids right before the weekend I released the first episode. So for about 2 weeks ago. So and we will go again. We loved it. So we'll go again in the summer and do summer activities. So I might reach out and see what this lady is up to. But Graphic Dye Works, it's this beautiful speckle. It's like it's blues. Love it. And it is semi-bold spirit. It's called Snow Day. Sport weight, 100% superwash merino, 328 yards per 100 grams. No plans for that as of now, other than I liked it and it was coming home with me. The next one is Adelaide Fiber Company, and I had not heard of this one either. I wonder if it says where they're at. Does not. This is Victoria Fingering Weight, which is a 4-ply, 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, 437 yards per 100 grams. And I think the colorway is Peace, Love, and Yarn. But that might just also be something they say. I don't want to rip this off. I got it for $26.50, which is phenomenal. I don't remember what I got this for. It's not on the ball band. This. purples, greens, teals, pinks. Amazing. And I like the logo. Again, absolutely no plans. This I was really excited about. I think I walked into the shop and was like, oh, I'm so glad you have this in stock. I've never met this woman, but that's the first thing I said. Really excited. So this is Blue Sky Fiber Bundle, wool stock bundles. I love these. This is the second new colorway. I got the, is it Bramble and Fig? It was on the last episode I talked about it. I'll put the name up because I do know. This is the Fire and Ice. So these are their spring color bundles that they came out with. And I've got these dark blues. These blues I still have some of from my winter hat that I showed last time. But then it's got these mauves and purple and orange, or a mauve, a red, an orange, and a really nice golden yellow. So I'm excited about that. I love these for color work hats. The yarn is phenomenal. It is, let's see, there's 21 mini hanks. It is worsted, 100% fine Highland wool. It's amazing. This yarn was so nice to knit with. You know the yarns that as you're knitting with them, it's enjoyable just because of the yarn. It doesn't matter what the knitting is. It's just the feel and the texture and the sensory of it. I have sound processing disorder, which I'm actually going to talk about in the homeschooling section a little bit. So head over there if you want to hear about this. But I experience the world around me a little differently than other people do. And so textures are a really weird thing for me. I could never wear anything around my neck when I was a kid at all. And even now, I still don't. So yeah, when a yarn is just so texture enjoyable, that's kind of a weird thing for me. So yeah, I tend to enjoy it. Okay, lastly, I found Rapunzel's Boutique in Frankenmuth. I did not visit this place the last time I was in Frankenmuth when I went to Zeilinger's wool company because I only found it, sorry, let me rephrase this. It is called Rapunzel's Boutique, and the front half is like a really fancy boutique. It looked like it had great stuff. I didn't really browse that area because I'm not really in the market for any of that, right? Any items right now, or clothing or jewelry. Those just aren't things I buy a lot of. I buy a lot of yarn. But I didn't browse too much of that section, but I definitely want to take my mom back there because it was so up her alley and her style, and I think she'd really like it. She'd also just really like Frankenmuth, so I think we'll have to go there sometime. But then I found it on, I think it was Knitty, I can't remember. It was a find a local yarn store generator. So you put your zip code in and it showed you all of these. And this one was listed, but it was listed as Rapunzel's Yarn and Gift on that website. So I don't think they had, I don't know if they had a name change or if it was wrong on this site. Regardless, I had missed it and I had to come back. So I did. And I found 5 goodies. So this is Barocco Vintage DK. It's just a machine washable blend. It's a DK weight. It is a really nice heathered rust though. I have a color scheme. But I picked this, and I actually usually don't get, this is acrylic. Let's see. Acrylic has its place, absolutely. I have breathability heat issues, so I tend to steer clear of it unless it's for toys or something that I'm not wearing on my body. But this is 52% acrylic, 40% wool, and 8% nylon. Not something I would typically get. However, it's amazingly soft. It would make a nice sweater. I got it because I wanted to do some texture work, and I got it to go with this Malabrigo Rio in the Siri colorway, and it's got these rust speckles in the gold. And this is a worsted weight, and this is a DK, so they're not the same weight. But Andrea Mowry made a point to say it was in her I'll knit / spin if I want to YouTube channel, her vlog. And she likes to use different weight yarns to create some texture and differences in knitwear. So that's what I want to try with this, because I don't do that. I have OCD, and the idea of mixing yarn brands causes me anxiety. So I don't even do that very often. I know. Self-imposed rules, man. I have so many of them. So weird. I'm trying to get out of those ridiculous habits. But yeah, so these are different brands and different weights. I feel like I'm checking off 2 boxes. Progress, right? But yeah, I think they're gonna go really well together, and I'm not sure what I'll do with them. I'm not sure what I'll have enough yardage to do with them, but I'm excited, and I might do something myself and not follow a pattern. So that's what I got. And then this Rio, let me give you some info on that, it's 100% superwash merino wool, 100 grams, 210 yards. It was $7.50. And the Barocco, I told you the content, it was 290 yards per 100 gram. So there's about an 80-yard difference in the skeins. And this, here it is, $10. This was $10 at Rapunzel's. I also got another skein of Malabrigo just because I didn't want to leave it. I loved the colors. It is Aro in Rosalinda. It's got these pops of gold, these pinks. I love that gold coming in. And there was like a greenish tint down here. There's some purple, pink. Yeah. Anyway, I love this. I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this. This was $21.50. It is 100% superwash merino wool, 100 grams, 335 yards. It's a DK weight. So maybe some mitts. I don't have good, I'm trying to fill in the gaps with our winter gear now that we live in a more northern state. We keep moving more north, which is opposite of my request to move more south. But I really love my husband, and he really loves his job. So I guess we're here. All right, the last thing I got here, actually that's not true. I got one more thing I'll talk about, but I'll put a picture of it up. The last thing I got was Emma's yarn, and the owner I spoke to told me this was someone in Florida. I haven't looked her up yet. This is 100% super merino, 438 yards, 100 grams. This is fingering weight. It was $30, hand dyed in Florida. Yeah, Emma's yarn. Beautifully basic. This is the colorway Beauty Queen. It's like peaches, pinks, almost identical to the skein I got before, right? Much more peachy, but they had the same thing in mohair. This is a 50-gram skein of mohair, and this was $31.50. I am using Barocco Ariel for my novice cardigan, and I got that for $15 a skein. So they are 25-gram skeins though, so 2 of those would have equaled $30. This was $1.50 more for 50 grams for a hand-dyed variegated thing of mohair. I think this price is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I love these streaks down the middle. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't even know if I care. I'm going to covet it for a while. Touch it. Keep it in my stash because it's so pretty. But I'm definitely going to keep her in mind and look at her online inventory, because this was a fantastic deal. And I really like the look of a solid yarn with a variegated mohair. I think it was Taylor from Fiber for the People. She has a video podcast. I haven't seen hers in a while, but she also is the owner and dyer of Fiber for the People, and her yarn is phenomenal. She is such an inspiration. And I love, she uses really colorful books to get her palettes inspiration. Oh, I just love her stuff. But she did that where it was a solid color with a variegated mohair on top, and it looked so nice. So I want to do something. I really do want to try more variegated mohair. And I feel like I don't want to dye it myself. Like, I know the dyeing process and I know how sticky mohair is, and I just don't feel like that's something I want to do. Maybe you guys have dyed mohair and it's not that bad and I'm inflating it inside my head, but to me that sounds like a lot of work and I would rather be knitting. So okay, so I'm going to move into homeschooling for a little bit. I actually have a few things I want to talk about. So we went to Grand Rapids 2 weeks ago and visited a few places. We were just there for a conference my husband had, and we were using it as a way to experience or go on some field trips, right? We're homeschoolers, so this was perfect. We went to the Grand Rapids Children's Museum, which was phenomenal. The only thing I have to say about it is we're kind of in this weird transition with my oldest. He's 11, and he's academically advanced as well, so it's just kind of beyond or below him at this point, and we're kind of needing different activities than we did before, because he's just older. But the museum was phenomenal. They had like working conveyor belts on their grocery checkout area. They had a bank, they had an ice cream shop, what else? A pizza oven, a gas station. They had a whole music area, which my kids found, which actually led to a cool homeschooling project that we're going to talk about. So my son has been playing piano for about 5 years. He's 11, and yeah, about 5 years. And they recently, I want to say in the past year and a half, started doing some composition stuff, and he has written 2 songs. And I am personally, as the non-musician in the family, I am personally impressed because both hands are doing multiple things, and I could not play that, let alone write it. But he played a few of his songs in the music section on one of the pianos, and he really liked doing that. So I told him, I said, well, maybe you could record a video and we could put it in the homeschool section as a project. So he is going to compile one of his original compositions, write it down. That's our first step, because he has it memorized. It's all memorized, and I am also impressed that he does that. But he needs to get it written down and like solidified, because he has like movements, like where things kind of change, like faster paced sections and slower sections. Like it's very cute. And he has played around with this song for like 1.5 years. But he needs to get it written down first and then record videos and do the editing for the videos. And I thought that'd be a fun activity for him to do while I'm learning to edit videos and record and whatever. So yeah, that is going to be one of his homeschooling projects. And he wanted to play, he enjoyed the public playing. He said, I didn't think I would enjoy playing my own music for other people, but I really enjoyed that. And I was like, oh, well, great. I have a podcast and we can put it in the homeschool section. You will. That is kind of cool. So yeah, that's what he's going to do. But anyway, they found the music room, and that was probably our most visited room. But it was great. We stayed for about 2 hours. We then went to a restaurant called Basalt. And this is actually someone I went to high school with in West Virginia. We went to school together, and then he moved away, and then they came back in high school. So yeah, and I didn't get to see him this time, which was a bummer, but I totally understand. It was a very short notice trip, and we'll hopefully see each other over the summer when I can make it back that way. But I bought a tote. It was called Basalt. I don't know if this is like a logo for them or just something they had printed on this bag. These must have been something they did at the market, Fulton Street Farmers Market. I am assuming, like a lot of farmers market, this is just like one of those totes you can buy there to use at the store. But I liked it, and I use these as project bags. So I got one because I wanted it. My son loved this place. He was so cute. He loved it so much. Okay, so first let me explain the restaurant. It's a Tex-Mex restaurant, and they were open from 7 to 1. They had a breakfast and lunch menu. I think it was 7 to 1. Don't quote me on that part. But they did have a breakfast and lunch menu. We got breakfast stuff, even though it was like we were there until closing. Homemade tortillas. Oh, they were so good. We got breakfast tacos, and my kids loved them. They were so good. My son now is talking about trips to go to Grand Rapids just to eat at Basalt. I can't blame him. He has good taste. It was amazing. It's amazing when you can support people that you've known in life, but it's even better when you can support them and the stuff they make is really good and your kids aren't complaining when they're eating it. So it was a 10 out of 10 for me. But no, it was really, really good, and you should check it out, and I do want to go back. He was a little bummed out that we couldn't go the second day to take my husband because he was still working at the conference, but that's okay. It was so fun. The second thing we've done recently is we went to Saginaw with my husband yesterday, and we went to the Children's Museum there, the Mid-Michigan Children's Museum. We had a good time here. It is a smaller museum than the Grand Rapids one. It is a much smaller area. But again, we're just not in children's museums anymore. So we only stayed an hour. We explored the place and stayed about an hour. But there was a vertical rock climbing wall, and I think I mentioned this. I can't remember if I said this already, but we're in a weird transition with my oldest where he's too old for things we used to do, kind of, but like what are the new hobbies going to be and the new family activities, and what are we going to enjoy doing together instead of going to children's museums. And the two things rock climbing, they were really enjoying that, and I was like, oh, we could find a rock climbing place and do that. But I also forget we moved to a small town, so I have to look that up and see if that's even an option, or if that's going to be something we can do like when we go to Detroit or Grand Rapids or something. The other thing we recently found, or yesterday when we left, we went to the Sculpture Museum, which was literally down the hall from where my husband was teaching, which we did not know. We walked into the building to go to the museum part, and out of nowhere we hear a saxophone playing, and I was like, sounds like a saxophone. That doesn't sound like a student. What are the chances? So we went and looked in the window, peeked in the door window from a distance. To be fair, he did not see us, so I do not feel bad. But we peeked in and got to see Daddy play some music, or the kids got to see him play some music, which was cool. And we then walked down the hall to the Free Sculpture Museum. I cannot remember the artist. I know this is going to be bad. I don't know much about sculptures, but I'll put it up here. Anyway, we went there. It's free. It was awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. My kids loved it. We got to see these huge sculptures. They were all the plaster molds for casting the bronze and metal sculptures. So they were the molds, but even so, they were really cool and very detailed. And we really enjoyed looking at the little Stella really enjoyed looking at all the little details. And she did a fantastic job. She's 6, and so a sculpture museum could be stressful, but she was an awesome listener. I only had to tell her to slow feet down once, and she did not even try to touch anything. I was very impressed. They also had an exhibit with a Detroit artist that I also don't know the name of. Keep in mind, this was an activity we were doing to kill an hour, so I really didn't plan on this at all. I wasn't prepared to be documenting what we were doing either. But I will put their name up. Phenomenal exhibition. It was a Black History exhibition featuring a Detroit artist. Tons of conversations were sparked. I at no point expected my son to enjoy this. This child would rather read a nonfiction book than ever draw a picture. If he finds out that it's art, he's like uninterested. Everybody has their thing, right? But I didn't think he would enjoy analyzing paintings. Oh, buddy, he went in, would look at the picture, read the placard, and was asking me questions about it. And we were having some awesome discussions. So I am tagging, we're gonna go to, there is an art museum in Saginaw. This was just a small exhibit in this sculpture museum. They also have another exhibit coming, I think at the end of February. We'll go check it out. Because again, this was a free museum and my husband teaches this class on Wednesday. It's just like we have 2 hours to kill, right? If we want to go down there with him. Because Saginaw's about half an hour away. So it's nice to go when he's going. Yeah, so that was fun. So we'll check out an art museum. I'm going to think about rock climbing, but I'm kind of just trying to figure out what our new normal is. I feel like it was easier to be a parent when they were younger and find activities outside of the house that kept them entertained. And I am struggling with figuring out what the new normal is. The last thing I want to talk about today in this homeschooling part is more about me than my kids. So I have sound processing disorder, and that means that there is a functional error. It is, what was I calling it? Crap. I have recorded this portion 3 times now because I was interrupted twice, which is going to prove the point for me. But there's a functional problem from when I get the sensory input to the output, right? Whereas, so we could both hear the same sound and I am experiencing it differently. I'm experiencing the sound differently. I'm not sensitive to the sound, which is sensory sensitivity disorder. Sensory processing disorder is a functional difference in how I process it. That's what I was looking for. Anyway, so the world around me is very chaotic, which is very inconvenient as I am an ADHD adult with inattentive type, which also means my brain is a very chaotic place all the time. So the world around me is just chaos, and homeschooling is not the most calming experience for me. I am interrupted constantly, which we're working on boundaries, but it's also interruption because my children also have ADHD and are impulsive speakers, not out of disrespect. So you have to, it's not something that they are trying to do and they are getting better at it, but it is just a fact. So I'm interrupted more. People are touching my body all day. My kids both have the love language of physical attention, and right now I'm the person that gives it to them. So that's demanding, and that adds a lot of input for me. Sound is the biggest one for me. And I get very overwhelmed. And what does that mean? It means that I craft more as a homeschooling parent than I did as a non-homeschooling parent. And that's because I find times, or I need more self-care than I did. I need more breaks. And for me, knitting is meditative. So knitting is allowing me to sit in quiet for just 20 minutes, right? To recharge and then get up and go do something. I also do a lot of my knitting during school. I don't need to have my hands to do my lecturing and talking through things for the most part. So I get a lot of knitting done during the day when I'm working on school with the kids. And that's also a part of the phase of life right now, though, because we are in Michigan in the winter, and winter is a time for restoration, a time for rest, a time for planning for the time in the summer and the spring when we start being more active. I struggle with this phase because I don't do well not being active or not going. So this is a hard phase for me in the winter. But taking a step back and just relax, like chilling out. And so that's what crafting allows me. And so homeschooling overwhelms me, and crafting grounds me in between so that I can continue to be the gentle parent that I want to be. Because that's what's important, right? So yeah, so that, I just thought that was, I've been thinking through that a lot about how I feel less productive when we have home days, and not feeling guilty about that. If your stuff is getting done, It's okay that you're having more time right now to relax and have downtime. Also, my kids are getting older, so it feels wrong. It feels wrong that there is more time naturally as they are exploring their interests or playing a game together upstairs. They didn't have a lot of that when they were younger. There is a 4.5-year age difference between our kids, and they also are just very different personalities. So they very much played independently by themselves and are just now kind of playing together and doing things together. So I also have just all this time in my day where like, I'm like, oh, well, my stuff's done. Okay, well, I can do some knitting. And that feels wrong, but it is just naturally how things are evolving in our day. And I don't know, it kind of, all of it feels up in the air right now because I feel like we just hit this transition this like winter. And so we're still trying to navigate that and we're a very active family. We like to be out of our house. We like to go to the lake. We like to go to the park. We like to go on bike rides. We like to go do things. So winter is hard for us to step back. And yeah. I really lost my train of thought on that one, so I'm going to end this right here. But those are kind of the things that we're going through right now with our homeschooling day. None of the things that I feel like we're dealing with are really academic. The kids are doing really well with the schoolwork. I feel like we've nailed down all of that. It really is just the extracurriculars we're exploring and kind of like our field trips, like where are we going and what are we doing and how are we navigating our day. So, yeah. Okay, so in the personal learning section, I'm going to talk about a few things that have happened. First off, I haven't read a single book. I haven't read a single page in either of my books. This goes back to the sound processing disorder. I keep saying sensory processing disorder. I'm so sorry. But the sensory processing disorder and overwhelm, and reading for me is a pretty big trigger right now. I had a pretty traumatic experience in grad school, which is not an uncommon thing. But it took me about a year to read a book again after grad school, after research for my thesis. And I love reading. So this week I just really struggled with it. I feel like because I am learning how to record and be on social media, I'm not very active on social media. So like all of this stuff I'm learning to do for the podcast has taken its toll, and not in a negative way. It's just taking my brain space in a way that I need more zoning out time. That's another interesting thing about ADHD brains is I need to let my brain wander. That's how I recharge. So the sound interrupts that, or reading a book would interrupt the wanderings of my mind. And a lot of my projects and creative endeavors, like things around the house and organizing and just stuff like that, gets processed while I'm knitting and while I'm doing that stuff. My husband does that like in the shower. Like he's always, it's just really funny because you'll see him, he's just standing there and just like in the hot water, right? And processing things. And that's like when he does his thinking. And I do my thinking when I'm knitting and in quiet. So yeah, I will. Oh, right, reading. That's what it was. See, you're getting an inside look into the frustration of forgetting everything you're talking about with the ADHD brain. It is a mess. But yeah, so I honestly haven't read anything. I have, however, got more books from the library, which is a blast. Hang on. My battery's dying. I hope that didn't mess up. I don't think it did. It said it was recording. Anyway, so I haven't read anything. But I've been watching School of Sweet Georgia videos on dye gardens and trying to plan like what plants I want to try growing this year for some natural dye stock. So I'm really excited about that. I'll try to have some of my plans written up so I can talk about it more. I'm not really at that phase yet, but I'm kind of just thinking about it. The other thing I did was I bought the Hand Weavers Guild of America Certificate of Excellent Hand Spinning textbook. So they have certificates of excellence in hand weaving, hand spinning, dyeing, and basket weaving. I ideally would like to do the three: the dyeing, the spinning, hand weaving. Yeah. But so what it is it's like a 3-hour examination, and you work on, there's a ton of independent study and samples that you have to send in. And then you take like a final examination. You pay for that examination. So worst case scenario, I bought a $15 book and it's just for self-learning. So I'm excited about that, but I do think I would like to get the Certificate of Excellence, because then maybe I could teach some classes or things like that, and actually, people would know I know what I'm talking about. But I bought that book today, actually, so I'm waiting for that to come. And I'm really excited about it. And if it's any good, they were only $15. So if the book is good and a great resource, because I don't know. I don't know anybody who's done this experience. I'm sure it's phenomenal, but I just don't know. And $15 is so cheap for a reference. So obviously it made me a little leery, right? But if I get that one and it's good, and I really like it, I'm gonna go ahead and order the dyeing and hand weavers one. I really like studies like that because it kind of gives me a guided way of learning. I don't like being the one to create curriculum. So I'm really excited about that. I think that'll be fun, but we'll see. And I think that's it. The last thing I want to mention is if anybody is local to Midland, I did go around to a few of the yarn shops and drop off posters and stuff. So I think there might be some subscribers that are local. But if you aren't, you should check out the Yarnies that meet Friday night 6 to 9 at Stranded Yarn and Coffee. I went for the first time this week. I'm really excited about it. I am absolutely going. I am such an introvert. I am a massive introvert. So I literally went and was like, I'll be there an hour. Like, I'll be there an hour. Like, that's about as much socialization as I can handle right now. Because like I said, I don't have a lot of brain space right now in this phase of life. I feel like I'm having a lot of brain fog lately. But yeah, so I didn't know. But of course, I stayed until they kicked us out. No, they didn't kick us out, but it was closing time. But come check it out. I had a blast, and I would love to see everybody and talk about yarn. All right, well, that's all I've got for today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again.